What's up, dogs? As promised, the new Canon RF 70-200 f4. Let's see if this fills the massive hole that I've had in my lineup at the longer end. As always, some to the point, not overly technical impressions coming right at you. The good, the bad, and in this video, the twist, where I give my opinion in the context of my setup, so that you can judge for yourself how much weight that should carry for you, given your circumstances. The good, the build. This is the same lens as the 24-105 f4. Not actually, but it might as well be, and that's great news. We've got an extra stabilizer mode switch, a focus limiter switch, and after that, just about everything is almost identical to the 24-105 f4 lens. The focus rings feel the exact same, as well as the control rings, as you would expect, and the zoom rings are also very similar, both having an indent where the ring spans both the narrower and wider part of the barrel. This one on the 70-200 is taller, which I like, and though it turns smoothly, there is more resistance than the 24-105 ring, which I prefer. I've had the 24-105 for just about a year now, so it's possible that this ring has loosened over the course of normal use. Filter size is 77mm, and that's the same on both this lens and the 24-105, which is cool. And you're getting your red ring, and thus your weather sealing. And actually, that's how weather sealing works. When the rain is falling, it sees that ring, and it says, I don't want to get this wet. See, when the precipitation falls, it will see the red ring, and then, if you're familiar with the 24-105, these two lenses are almost identical in size and weight, with the 70-200 being just a hair heavier. I'm gonna roll through sample shots as per usual throughout this video, but because the 70-200 shares a focal range with the 24-105, I did wanna take some time to evaluate the differences between, say, 70 and 100mm. I'm not usually one for poking around in Lightroom comparison at 200%, but it looks like the 70-200 is sharper at that overlapping range, which 70-200 fans, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's generally expected on a longer range zoom. Practically though, I don't know what this means in terms of your kit. If you really think you would use the 24-105 almost exclusively past 70, then maybe instead of having both of these lenses, you could go with the 70-200 and one of the affordable faster primes as a way to cover some of the wide end. Generally though, as you would expect with the RF lens lineup, this is sharp and responsive and an absolute joy to use. I'm pretty upset that I waited this long to get a 70-200, knowing that, or at least thinking that I would love this as much as I do. Also, I wanted to compare handheld stabilization on both the 70 end and 200 end for both the RP and the R6. Here are the clips at 70mm with the stabilization turned off, and here with the stabilization turned on. And here's the same comparison at 200mm with stabilization off and stabilization on. Continuing with all this good, we've got a minimum focus distance of about 2 feet, which is pretty slick. I've never owned a 70-200. In fact, this is the first time I've ever actually used one, but the EF 70-200 f4IS Mark II USM has a minimum focus distance of over 3 feet. So this is a welcome improvement. This is 70 and 200 from 2 feet, and this is 70 and 200 from 3 feet. So a bit of a difference here in terms of how close you can shoot. And finally, I'm gonna put the price in good as well. This might be a hot take, but I think 16 is good here. If nothing else, it looks a lot more enticing than some of the other RF lineup. And the EF version that I just mentioned is selling for, I think, $1,300. So in my mind, that $300 price difference doesn't necessarily justify having to carry around a longer lens that's not gonna be quite as sharp, and one that you'll actually also need the adapter for as well. On to the bad, I'm gonna throw the fact that this is an f4 into the bad category. That will be in the eye of the beholder, and I was legitimately worried about the 24-105 being an f4 when I got that as the kit with my RP, but I don't think I've since regretted it once. In fact, the time I thought I was going to regret it was when I was shooting the stars on the trip I took where I only brought that lens. And because we were in the middle of Pennsylvania and the moon wasn't blazing, it still surprised me in combination with the RP. It works well for the product, landscape, or street stuff that I'm shooting, but if you're looking at weddings and paid portraits, you might find yourself wanting faster. In fairness, I've only used this for a week, but you're gonna get the same great image quality you're getting from the 24-105 f4, But then because you can shoot from 105 to 200, you should be able to get more separation between your subject and the background. Shooting with the R6 or R5 is going to help if you need fast shutter speeds and low light, but this is going to work lovely on the RP as well, especially when shooting outdoors. My name is Dan Joshua and I'm a creative entrepreneur. Big shout out to you noobs coming in over the past month. If you're in that crew, drop a comment or a question so that I can make sure that I'm making content that you value. Now here is the twist. And there is a twist. I did not rent this. I bought this lens, but I'm going to stop short of expressing my undying love just yet. I think that might be a little too premature given that it's only been a week. I'm sure I'll get to that point very quickly, but I bought this lens kind of with the idea that it could be a long-term rental. Maybe that if I didn't love it, I could use it for a month or 2 or 3, and then because I imagine it will be hard to get a hold of in the coming months, potentially, I could sell it for pretty close to sales price. The reason I'm hesitant to fully commit 100% is that I'm trying to evaluate if I can successfully replace my 100mm with this. If you watched my 100mm macro video, I love it, and I've always kind of used that in place of a 70 to 200. You know, just a long focal length of 160 first and then 100, as opposed to a true macro. Obviously, this is no macro, but given how I've used that lens, I think this could be a suitable replacement. And if so, I'd like to kind of keep one or the other in order to keep my kit consolidated. And I should really only keep one, given that this is not exactly cheap. Now, if I didn't rent this lens, what could possibly be in this box? That would be the f2.8, my dogs. One of you fine viewers saved yourself $25 on a rental, which in turn saved me $25 on a rental. I wanted to compare these two to make sure I was making the right decision. And if it turns out that I like the f2.8, then at some point I'll move the f4 along, and I guess, I don't know, I'll save for the rest of eternity to be able to afford this.